Hello everyone and welcome to the Mid-Season Madness Break CNN episode where I break down everything that has happened in the last few weeks since the end of the Mid-Season Madness. There have been a metric butt ton of roster moves and I've been away for a very long time. This is my first video in a long time, but I'm back from my wedding. It was awesome. Back from my honeymoon, all that type of stuff. So we're getting back into it. The Overwatch League starts again tomorrow as of recording this video. 13th of July on this Thursday. Matches are kicking off for the West. There have been some matches going on in the East for the qualifiers to get into the knockouts to potentially make it to the playoffs. But we're not going to cover too much of that right now, even though there is some interesting stuff happening. So before we get into the laundry list of roster moves that happened, I do want to break some stuff down, just sort of walk through them quickly because I don't want this to be an incredibly long episode. I don't want this to be an hour long. It probably will end up being an hour long, but I want to get through it as quickly as possible. So let's just get into it. First things first, in business related stuff, the Microsoft deal with Activision Blizzard has been given the green light from the FTC, according to a judge ruling. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a businessman. All I know is people are telling me this is good news. It's exciting to see. We really want Microsoft to acquire Activision Blizzard because for a lot of us, we believe that will really help us and the Overwatch League go in a much healthier direction. So fingers crossed, Microsoft goes through. We take those. So also throughout the break, we had the Overwatch World Cup qualifiers where all the teams needed to be narrowed down to 16 that will compete at BlizzCon. So we have our 16 teams. Qualifiers were one-sided for some regions, but there was some interesting stuff that happened, especially in the European region. So here are your top 16 teams. We got China, who automatically qualified due to all the China Overwatch stuff. United States clowned their way through the qualifiers, almost losing to Mexico, but they do a little bit of trolling, but they are still one of the best teams because they have so many quality Overwatch League teams. Canada coming through as well, as you can imagine. United States and Canada quite strong. Mexico making it. It was a up for discussion if we thought Mexico would come through, but they're actually quite a solid team. Colombia with Tip the Spear EQO getting the qualification out of South America. Brazil coming with them as well with the top prominent streamer of Ludwig. United Kingdom with some quality OWL players and contenders players also getting through. Spain, really one of the highlights of the qualifiers so far. Just performed better than a lot of people were expecting. Competitive with some of the better teams that we expected in their group as well. So big congratulations to these guys. Excited to see them here in LA at BlizzCon. France, a lot closer than a lot of people were expecting, but France also did manage to make it out of the groups. Saudi Arabia being dominant. We expected these guys to be good. I expect this team to make top 8 as well. Just very mechanically talented players. Finland, a staple of the Overwatch World Cup, also managing to make it through with some quality brawl. South Korea, literally, it wasn't even close. It barely even close. They fucking crushed it. Japan making it through. Hong Kong as well. Australia and Thailand making it out of the Oceanic region. Australia, I believe, went 6-0 in their group, played very well. Thailand as well. So I think it'll be interesting to see which teams end up making top 8. For anyone that isn't aware, the way it's going to work as far as I'm aware is top 16 will all come to LA, come to BlizzCon, but they will not all play on the main stage. The main stage is made for the top 8. So there will be a group stage that happens, I believe, for the top 16 that will then narrow that down to 8. So not all these teams will play on the main stage. There might be some qualifiers. So who will make that top 8? We'll have to find out. This will be happening late in October, just before BlizzCon. So keep an eye out for that. But for the most part, we're done with the Overwatch World Cup for now. So, all that out of the way, let's talk about the summer stage that's coming up for the Overwatch League. It's been a couple of weeks breaks. It feels like forever since we had the Overwatch League back, but it starts again tomorrow. It's going to be on YouTube once again, and let's talk about the general info. Summer stage consists of the opens, the qualifiers, and the knockouts in the East, and the qualifiers in the West region. Very similar to how it played out in the last spring stage. It'll feed directly into the postseason. There will be a play-ins for both East and West to determine who goes to the playoffs. And then when Overwatch 2 Invasion comes out with the new support hero, with Flashpoint, the new Overwatch game mode coming out, I believe it's August 24th is when they said we would be seeing these things in the Overwatch League. There will be a 2-week bye in the middle of this summer stage to give the teams time to get up to speed, to let everything sort of shake out so we have as much quality coming into the matches. But this summer stage to begin with will be played on patch 2.5.0.1, which means absolutely nothing to most people. But what that is that is the patch that we were playing just before. So there was a mid-season patch that just came out in Season 5 with some changes to Symmetra, Torbjorn, Soldier got Giga buffed, some Orisa changes, all of those things that just happened in the mid-season game patch. Not that patch. It is the one before that. It is the one that was we were playing the regular season on, where Mei got buffed and or changed and all that type of stuff happened. So not the live patch, the one just before that right now, which will be a little confusing for some people. But at the end of the day, I don't see it having too much impact. From the rumor mill, Winston, Tracer, Sombra, that old chestnut seems to be prominent once again. We are expected to be playing that Sombra dive. There is expected to be less Ramatra, less variety than we saw last time, which is disappointing. I think we're all hoping not to have to go into a Sombra meta once again. So, Lena Rain, congratulations on winning the summer stage. There are some changes to the map pool. We have Busan entering the pool. We got Eichenwald, Midtown, Numbani as the hybrid map. Circuit Royale as well is an interesting one. Watchpoint Gibraltar, the new Watchpoint Gibraltar, the first time we'll see it in the Overwatch League. This is a small graphic. But yeah, Circuit Royale is always a very different map type. It's going to have Sigma. You're going to have double flex support. So there will be some variety there, at least hopefully. And Route 66 coming in as well. Dorado, some fan favorites in this map pool. So things will be changing. There will be drops on the YouTube, as you can imagine, as always. And that's the summer stage. So, we've set the stage. Now, what do we expect to happen? There have been a lot of changes. When you only have one major break in the middle of the season, teams need to make changes, especially if it isn't working. So, I've got the list. Don't worry, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't heard of anything, I'm going to break down everything that's happened with all the teams and give my opinions on them as we go. So, first things first, Vegas Eternal. They decided to drop Malthul, Vulcan, and Luke Mino. So the Vegas Eternal experiment has failed. They believed in themselves to be able to turn it around this season. If you watch the matches, unfortunately, they were not able to do so. So they went in a different direction. They have signed Knife, 2U, and Irony. So these are all pretty solid contenders players that were playing in the qualifiers in the APAC region, all Korean, that will be playing for the Vegas Eternal. Great players, definitely upgrades in terms of individual skill. The question that we have for these guys is, it is confirmed they will be playing on about 180 ping at like 3 a.m. in the morning, because they will be playing out of Korea with no intention for them getting visas to North America. That plus the language barrier, because Dove and Rack Attack have been retained. So, with those two being retained, you have this language barrier that's coming in. Avala's the GM, but also going to be the translator. There was an interview that Yiska did with these 3 new Korean additions. They seem excited. They seem confident. For me, the speed bumps of, the Irony 2U and Knife playing on high ping, playing with that language barrier, I don't think it's going to turn their season around. Best case scenario, they win a match. And I think that would be cool. That's what we're all hoping for. But we will see if they actually have improved with these players. Next up, we had the LA Gladiators deciding to part ways with Dante. Dante has been a tremendous player for a very long time, who has since retired after getting dropped from the Los Angeles Gladiators. He's going to play in collegiate. He's going to do streaming, so keep an eye out for all that stuff. But the Gladiators, and Dante has been pretty transparent about everything that happened. They wanted a new tank because of everything that's going on with their parent organization, not having that much money. It was one or the other. They either could get Marvel or they kept Dante. And the coaches decided to sign Marvel to this roster. It's a great short-term move of Marvel's a strong main tank player. We know he can play these heroes. It will definitely be an upgrade if Winston is the meta. So we understand it's upsetting. Dante is a franchise player. He's been a staple for the league for a long time. Sad to see him retire, but he had a great career, and I can absolutely see this move for the Gladiators improving them as long as we stay in a main tank meta. They will definitely look weaker if they have to play Ramatra, or if they have to play Junker Queen or Doomfist, right? The heroes that were Dante's bread and butter. But short-sighted, Marvel is a great signing. Marvel just went back to contenders after his long stint on the Soul Dynasty. He has been in the Overwatch League before. He's a solid player. Went back to O2 Blast, was one of those players who was fighting for the spots in APAC region. Excited to see him come back into the Overwatch League. Next thing we got, and this is still very fluid because, wait, did we just have this drop while we're here? Oh, it's not fluid. We have an answer. So let me go to the beginning before you just got the spoilers. The San Francisco Shock have dropped Heesang, the young prodigy who was supposed to play alongside Proper, and they also dropped Vindime. Both of these players heavily struggled so far in the Overwatch League on the San Francisco Shock. They weren't playing to the potential we hoped for them. So they dropped these players, and it's only just now coming out. Probe got announced 30 minutes ago to be the new hitscan player who will be signing for the Shock. It's an exciting prospect. We know how strong he has been in contenders. People have been hyping this guy for a while. It's cool to see him get his shot in the league. And as of right now, Luke Mino has been signed to the San Francisco Shock. My man went from the Vegas Eternal to the San Francisco Shock. That's a pretty good offseason or mid-season break for Luke Mino, who went from by far the worst Overwatch League team to now joining the San Francisco Shock. I don't really know how to feel about this. Let's talk about Probe first. Probe coming from O2 Blast. He's been with these guys for years. Active hit scan player. It's cool to see him make it. He's 18, so he's only really just become eligible. Excited to see him get his shot. I don't know how good his Sombra is. With these changes, I expect one of the reasons Heesang Proper didn't work is they were both flex DPS players who could play Tracer. So they needed a Sombra hit scan player, right? So Probe comes in as the hit scan player. I'm glad they filled that hole so we don't have to watch Proper play hit scan. But can he play the Sombra as well? We'll find out, right? Can he play it at the Overwatch League level, at the top level? We'll see. But Luke Mino is kind of one out of left field. He is going to be the only Western player to be playing for the San Francisco Shock. The question I have is, he's a flex support. So they have Finn Luke Mino on this team as the San Francisco Shock backline. He can probably play Brig. I don't know the quality of his Brig. I haven't really seen it. It's interesting that the Shock signed him. There is limitations to who the San Francisco Shock could sign, because they want players that are going to be able to get visas or be able to play in the short term and solve that problem. They don't want to have to go through these visa issues. So we know they were looking at the sort of the Western contenders players like Luke Mino. So I'm excited to see these guys getting their shot. Hopefully Luke Mino can show what he has. You know, we know how great his Hanzo was that one time we saw it for the Vegas Eternal. He's gonna be playing main support. Hopefully he's good at it. He's got a long way to come. I see some of you guys saying he's played it in the past. There's a big difference between playing it in the past and playing it in the Overwatch League. But he had to have done well in trials. Krusty's not going to choose these players unless they were the best fits for the team. Can, in short notice, they turn it around? We'll see. I don't even know. Does Probe have a visa? I don't know. Like, is he just going to be playing on high ping? I don't know. We don't really know what the answers. These things are just coming off the press right now. Interesting moves by San Francisco Shock. Something needed to change because of the issues they had. We'll see if this really fills everything out. Welcome back. I'm cutting this at the end of the video because I'm too lazy to put it in here. Maybe I'll cut it into the middle. If you're seeing this, Renko was signed just recently, directly after I finished recording the video. So we're splicing this in. Renko is getting signed as well. Okay. Interesting. We did hear rumors that Luke Mino and Renko might get signed. Are these two going to be the backline pair of the San Francisco Shock? Are we going to see Finn? Are we going to see a mix and match? I genuinely don't know. I genuinely don't know. Is Luke Mino Renko, if they do play those two, are they going to be better than Finn Vindheim? That would be a weird direction for the team to go in, but I'm about it. Okay, back to the regular video. Resident white boy for the Shock. Shock have always had Western players. This was the first time they haven't had Western players, and it didn't go very well. So maybe that is the secret sauce. Mixed rosters is Krusty's bread and butter. So, talking about mixed rosters, the Toronto Defiant have made their own moves. Toronto Defiant had a very disappointing spring stage. We hyped them up, this sort of coming together of American Tornado, all the friends coming back together to make this super team, and it fell flat. Really disappointing to see. They dropped OG, they dropped Speedily, and they dropped Sam. You know, I feel bad for Sam, you know, and this has sort of been one of the narratives of Sam never really got his opportunity. He has a pretty interesting hero pool, never really got this opportunity to play. Speedily, his Tracer had definitely improved, but it wasn't at the level that they needed it to be. And OG just struggled heavily on this team. He was really struggling to get, you know, stay alive on the brig and the backline. So Toronto needs to make changes, and they did. They also passed on Wheats as their coach. So Wheats is gone, and then we get to the signings, which is going to be... Wait, I just went past it. Spectra and Opener have been signed to the Toronto Defiant. These are two players who have just recently been playing very well in contenders. Spectra has been a player that has been hyped up for a really long time. Opener played for the Washington Justice last year. He was a part of that Dreamers squad that made that like miracle run recently alongside Spectra. So wait, am I thinking of, was Opener on... Which team was Opener on? No, sorry, Opener was on O2 Blast. Spectra was on Dreamers. My fault. I thought they came from the same team. But essentially both players that came from the high-performing contenders, those guys are filling out a lot of the rosters in these Overwatch League teams. So I like the change. How they're going to transition successfully to a mixed roster. We know that these players currently are in Toronto. They have been able to get their visas in some way. So hopefully we'll be able to see these guys play and see if they can help improve this team, because they are heavily struggling and they need to step up in a big way. Okay. Seoul Dynasty has signed EasyHan. Prophet has been dropped. It feels like Prophet got unlucky because he came in at a time where his biggest strengths weren't being utilized. Hit scan player is his primary thing. His Sombra was just underwhelming. You can't say it any other way. It was just underwhelming, wasn't able to find the value on that hero, and the Seoul Dynasty struggled because of that. We'll find out to see if EasyHan can do any better. Obviously, made his name for the LA Valiant last year, went back to contenders. Once, as I said, he was on the Dreamers, able to get another shot with the Seoul Dynasty alongside Prophet. All the talent are rejoicing that we don't have to deal with Prophet and Prophet anymore, but is this Seoul Dynasty team going to get that much stronger? We'll find out. We'll have to find out. Vancouver Titans. If you have not been paying attention, let me give you a quick summary of what happened to the Vancouver Titans. Aspire has been dropped by the team due to some pretty heinous things that he did. I'm not going to talk about it. You need to go look it up yourself if you want. But he got dropped from the organization. So there was this massive void that they needed to fill. Then Heesang has been signed for the Vancouver Titans, which is a pretty big signing for the Vancouver Titans if you had talked about this prior to the season. But San Francisco Shock didn't want to keep Heesang due to the conflict with Proper. I do have my concerns about this signing because Heesang is essentially walking into the same issue where Sugar Free and Heesang have a very similar hero pool. They're the two DPS, but they're both kind of flex DPS players that can play Tracer. Who is going to be the hit scan guy? Is Sugar Free going to be the hit scan guy? Is Heesang going to be the hit scan guy? We know that they can both play it to some degree, but is it going to be enough? We know how dominant Aspire was on that, hit scan. We had that incredible Widow duel that happened earlier this season, but they're going to have that weakness of their own. We'll find out. We'll see. I think it's not a bad signing at all, especially if you're thinking short-sighted. You don't need to play Hitscan right now. One of them can play Sombra, the other one can play Tracer. They can make it work. So for the opportunities that I'm sure the Vancouver Titans had, I think he's saying is a great signing. Florida Mayhem. Sauna has been dropped from the Florida Mayhem. I know you can feel sad for him. He didn't really see much game time, but you can be happy for him. In the other hand, it looks like he's going to the London Spitfire. Sky Ripper and Lethal, unfortunately, just weren't able to perform for the London Spitfire. We liked the addition. They filled out the roster, but it felt like too many musical chairs, too many cooks in the kitchen, and I don't think we really got to see the success of Lethal and Sky Ripper. Both of these guys have announced that they will be moving back to Contenders to compete for them. And the London Spitfire have a tank bundle first, but they also signed Sauna. They did a tease tweet. This was almost 2 on the nose. But they signed Sauna to the London Spitfire. I'm excited to see what Sauna has. We saw bits and pieces of him on the Florida Mayhem, but it didn't really feel like we got a great grasp on how good of a player he is. But there has to be something about him. If the Florida Mayhem were willing to sign him, as the London Spitfire are willing to sign him, maybe he will get more playtime on this team. Then we move over to the New York Excelsior. This was an interesting one because it took a little bit, but Lep and Halo were dropped from... Oh, nope. Lep and Halo were dropped from the New York Excelsior, and they signed the recently departed OG, who came from the Toronto Defiant. OG walking onto the free market, New York Excelsior taking that opportunity upon themselves, dropping 2 main supports in Lep and Halo and just signing OG. Maybe we can see OG starting to find his footing again on the new team. New York Excelsior does have a pretty solid roster if you just look at it on paper. They got OG and Creative. They have Kellen as the tank. Then they got Psycho, Shockwave, and Fitz. They have a good roster, and we saw some of that in glimpses in the spring stage. Maybe OG is that piece that can take him to the next level. Why is his neck so long? I think he's just like looking up, but I see where you're coming from with that. Hangzhou Spark. Maybe the Changoon effect wasn't a Changoon thing. They've made some strange changes. Ray has been released as head coach. 20 has been released. 20 didn't play that well, maybe coming out of retirement. Didn't perform as well as we were hoping he might have. Creed has been promoted to head coach. He was an assistant coach. He has now been promoted to head coach, and they have signed first thing he did as a head coach is sign Pineapple. You would remember Pineapple played for the Hangzhou Spark last year, but as a DPS. Pineapple is now the new support for the Hangzhou Spark. We all agree the Hangzhou Spark backline has been struggling. Monk and Lengsa just not living up to that hype. I don't know if Pineapple role swapping to support is gonna be the solution. I don't believe he's even been playing Contenders as support. So a very strange one. I don't know. We used to just blame this stuff on Changoon, but now I'm kind of lost. So we'll see how this works. We'll see if Pineapple even plays. It's kind of a weird one. I don't know what to expect from this. But Hangzhou, I expect them to stay pretty strong. They have Leave. They have Shy as a DPS. Gooshway, if he can play Winston in this meta, they'll be a good team. But I think we really saw the limitations of them in the midseason madness, especially coming from their backline. Boston Uprising. Who could have seen this coming? Who could have known that Striker wasn't going to make it through the year of the Boston Uprising? Striker has retired for the 19th time in the middle of a season, and he has no longer signed for the Boston Uprising. There was a lot of speculation to believe that he might have gone back to the San Francisco Shock, but with the signing of Probe, it becomes less likely unless they want to sign 3 DPS. Maybe he'll come in, play Reaper in the playoffs and dominate for the San Francisco Shock, but Striker has once again found himself teamless in the middle of a season. Striker wasn't really an integral piece of this Uprising squad. He wasn't really playing that much, with Decay being the primary Tracer player and Birdring playing at such a high level. Striker just didn't see much game time. Probably one of the reasons he stepped back. Kriv was signed as an assistant coach. We stand Kriv and we stand the Boston Uprising. Kriv has been killing it, coaching Twisted Minds, the Saudi Arabian team, Contenders team, and he is now being promoted to the Boston Uprising. Good luck to him. Congratulations to him. We stand Carib. I don't know if they actually made an official graphic from this, but Moby Dick was also promoted to head coach. Actually, let me pull this up on Wikipedia just so I can get this right. Boston Uprising Wikipedia. So Moby Dick is now the head coach, and Dongsu was released. Jidset was also controversial. This happened about a month prior, but Jidset was released as coach. Dongsu was removed as the head coach, and Moby Dick, who was assistant coach, was promoted to head coach. We don't really understand the reasoning for this. It felt like it came out of left field. Maybe something's going on internally, but it's not uncommon, and they're making the changes they needed to do. Did you play with Kriv? I absolutely did play with Kriv in the LA Valiant, so that's why we stan Kriv. Shanghai Dragons, Fleta. The Fleta tank experience is Jova. We had a good run. It was fun while it lasted. Not really. It was awful. But it's over. Fortunately for Fleta, he has been promoted to coach. He is now a coach for the Shanghai Dragons. We'll see how that goes. We've seen a lot of players transition into coaches with varied success. So Fleta was once a great player, has now retired from playing and is moving over to the coaching role. And they've actually made a huge upgrade in this element because they've re-signed Fate. Fate has been a Shanghai Dragons tank for a very long time. Also played with him back in their Valiant days. Great Winston, great Wrecking Ball player. His Wrecking Ball is really his signature thing as of late. His Winston is very strong though. Great communicator, great leader. Should be able to help them a lot in this meta. Where he can play Winston, he can make the calls. They can do that Sombra Tracer dive with a competent tank at the helm, and then they have Hisu to be able to play that Sombra. They have Viper to be able to play the Tracer. This is a pretty good team. If Gangnam Jin Brig can play the way it needs to, I actually think this team can actually start punching upwards. They are looking more to be around a middle of the pack team, but we will never know. But this is definitely an upgraded Shanghai Dragon. It's definitely not just the bottom tier of the East anymore. Going over to the Washington Justice, FD God has been released from the Washington Justice. This happened pretty early in the mid-season, and he has been replaced by Donghan. Let me see if I can get this next tweet. Yeah, so Donghan has been signed. So a main support player who is, I think more reserved than FD God. Probably a little bit more flexibility. If you don't know who he is, he was the Dreamers main support. So when Dreamers made that run with a lot of these other players, he was at the helm with them. So he's definitely an interesting prospect. He's a rookie. There's a lot more interest coming on here than FD God, who had some, struggling moments from time to time. And yeah, FD God did go back to Team Pepsi. He's gone back to Contenders. And that's it. That's everything that has happened in this offseason. Holy cow. How long is this video so far? I actually don't know how long it's been, but whew, that's it. We did it. Good job. So now we need to talk about what the power rankings are, the most important thing that everybody cares about, and I'll do my pick'ems directly after this. First things first, the Atlanta Reign and the Houston Outlaws are sitting at the top. I don't have a tier break to put between Houston Outlaws and Atlanta Reign, so I'm just going to keep them where they are. Atlanta Reign is definitely the top of the West. Houston Outlaws not too far behind them, but Atlanta Reign definitely the clear favorites. LA Gladiators have made some improvements with the addition of Marvel. Do we put Florida Mayhem? Boston definitely goes higher. I think Boston goes into this tier, especially if the meta is going to stay the same. The meta's going to stay the same. I think that hurts Florida to some degree because I don't think they love playing the Sombra. These three are pretty interchangeable in some respects. I kind of want to put Boston third. Is that crazy? I think if the meta stays the same, I think that's good for them. But I think I'm going to put Gladiators fifth. I think I'm going to put the Gladiators fifth. I think that's fair. Glads did beat Florida twice. Yeah, but they didn't win the one that mattered, which was the most recent one. I think I think you can interchange Boston and Florida, but I actually think Florida, from what it sounds like, more Winston Sombra is going to be played, which means I think Winston Sombra is more of a strength of the Boston Uprising than it is the Florida Mayhem. Florida Mayhem, they merits hit scan or merits prowess of that, someone's flexibility. I think Florida's still going to be very good, but I'm actually going to go Boston Uprising a little bit more. Maybe we'll just call it career bias, but I genuinely feel that. Vancouver Titans, Washington Justice, San Francisco Shock, Toronto. I'm actually going to move Vancouver Titans down because I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know if Probe's going to be able to play Sombra. Either Probe or Sugarfree has to play Sombra, and we haven't seen that from either of them. You add that on top of the fact that, you know, Punk Winston, it's okay, but I think Vancouver Titans have to go down. Like, I think he's saying, oh, did I say, I don't know who I said, but I meant he's saying. He's saying, and Sugarfree. Who did I say? Who did I say was with Sugarfree? Probe? Oh, sorry. Sorry, mixing players up. He's saying in Sugarfree, yeah, both flex support traces. One of them's going to have to be able to play the Sombra. We did see he's saying Sombra. It was okay. Wasn't in love with it. We'll see if it goes the distance. Talking about San Francisco Shock, though, that is where the Probe issue lines up. I haven't seen Probe play full-time Sombra. We haven't seen it at the Overwatch League level. Do we think the San Francisco Shock are going to dramatically increase? Did I say flex supports again? Oh no, you said double flex support. Yeah, I'm not in love with this. I'm not in love with this Luke Mino signing. Like, first of all, he is a weird fit for this team. Second of all, he's a flex support who's having to play main support. I don't think San Francisco Shock have improved with the changes that they've made. So they're going to stay there. Toronto will be better than Shock. I think, here's my take. Who does New York go above? These five are weird. Because even Washington Justice, like, I'm not in love with Washington Justice. I'm kind of curious to see how the FD God change is going to help them. I hope they stick to one Winston player with Ben Best and Mira. It feels like they were very flip-floppy of who they wanted to play in what situations, and I think that hurt them. But Alpha Yi and Flora are just on a different level right now. They're absolute beasts. I think I'm going to put Shock. Oh, man, this is hard. Okay, actually, I'm going to stick with Toronto Defiant staying low. And here's why. If we are going into a Winston Sombra meta, even more than it's been in the past, that is the weakness of the Toronto Defiant. Hydron Sombra hasn't been world-class. I just want to see him play hitscan every time I see him play, but that's not going to fly if the rumors are true, and I think that it might just stay more Sombra. And Kalush, definitely his strength is not in his Winston. It's not bad, but I don't think this is playing into the strengths of the Toronto Defiant. So I'm gonna put Toronto Defiant below the New York Excelsior. I think the Excelsior should be somewhat better with all the changes that they have. So I'm gonna put New York Excelsior above the Toronto Defiant, but I'm gonna leave San Francisco Shock above, and that's literally just like the proper effect. I have to believe that this team is going to improve in just a short amount of time, but I just don't love their new signings. Like, I just don't. Like, I have no idea if Probe and Luke Mino can do what they're doing, but you have to believe that there's a reason that these players were signed. It really makes no sense, but I'm gonna leave Shock there. I'm gonna leave Shock there. Vancouver Titans. I'm gonna leave I'm going to leave it like this. I think I'm going to leave it like this. Washington Justice there, Vancouver Titans, Shock, New York Excelsior. I think all 5 of these teams could make a run, and I think it's going to come down to what changes in this midseason break. How much improvement have teams made? Are these few moving pieces making them better? Is it making them worse? Because not all of these moves are always going to be for the best, especially Vancouver Titans, right? We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Then we have the Los Angeles Valiant and the London Spitfire. I had the Valiant above the Spitfire. Does that change? Yeah, I think I put London Spitfire above the Valiant. I'm not going to put them in the tier break, but they're going to struggle in this meta. But I think they'll be better than the Valiant, because I think the Valiant, their strength was never in the Winston Sombra either. So Vegas, top of those 3? No, I don't agree with that. I still don't believe... I'll put them in the tier. Let me do this for you. I'll put them in the tier of the bottom. And I will give this new Korean players the benefit of the doubt. But I want to make it very clear. I do not believe that these 3 Korean players for the Vegas Eternal are going to turn things around. Like, I don't think they're going to turn it around. It's just going to be bad. I think they're going to deal with ping. They're going to deal with these issues. So many issues are going to not solve this problem. Hopefully they can win a match. I believe they play the Valiant, don't they? When does Vegas Eternal play the LA Valiant? Two weeks and 3 days from now, we will watch these 2 teams face off. This will really be the question of, can the Vegas Eternal get a win? Because I think the Valiant is going to be one of their best chances. Vegas also plays London in the same week. Whoa! We got a toilet bowl weekend. Vegas is playing Valiant and London. Let's go. That'll be an interesting week. I don't think London that bad. I don't understand how you can watch London, who played last stage, and say that they're not that bad. They were that bad. Like, they just were. They're really struggling, and I think they need to prove that they deserve to be out of the team. All right. Let's go to the east. Seoul Infernal, Guangzhou Charge, Hangzhou Spark, Dallas Fuel, Seoul Dynasty, Shanghai Dragons. So I actually think the top 3 stays the same. I'm going to put Charge down. I'm going to be honest, chat. I'm a little worried about the Guangzhou Charge because Jimmy fucks. But here's the thing. Jimmy doesn't really fuck on Sombra. The meta is moving away from Sombra. Towards Sombra, away from these snipers. So it's going to be hard for Guangzhou to really keep that going. I think they're still going to be a good team, and I'm actually going to keep them in this tier, but I'm a little worried about the Charge. And if they are going to force their way, we'll see how that goes. I'm going to leave Seoul Infernal at number 1 over the Hangzhou Spark. These teams actually play this weekend, and that'll be a really interesting matchup because it felt like all the APAC teams kind of just got dumpstered in the midseason madness, so we didn't get a great gauge of like how they stand up against each other. But I'm going to leave Seoul Infernal at 1. I think they had a great end to the spring stage. So Spark beat Florida. Whoopity-doo. Like, they didn't prove that they could play at the top end. Okay, they beat Florida in a map 5 that their backline played well for 1 match. And I think that was Florida's to lose. And I think they did. Like, you guys can try and defend Hangzhou Spark all you want in the midseason madness. All the power to you. All the power to you. I don't believe it. I don't see it. Like, didn't they get 3-0, 3-0 directly after that? Let me just remember if I did. Oh, they took a map off of Boston. They got dumpstered by Atlanta, which I remember that being real bad, and then they lost to Boston. That wasn't as much of a dumpstering, but overall, the APAC region did get dumpstered in the East. And then we got Tier Break, and we got Dallas Fuel, Seoul Dynasty, Shanghai Dragons. I think I'm... Can Shanghai be better than Seoul? Depends if Seoul gets Vindime. That's a good point. I think if Seoul gets Vindime, I actually think that they're in a better spot. What if we just fucking get Dallas? What if Dallas just crumbles? What if Dallas is the bottom of the East right now? And I don't even think they're going to be bad, but if the rumors are true and that Sombra is going to continue to be strong, what did Dallas play? How much do you rate Fade? I think he's a good Winston. I think he's a better Winston than Hanbin. Like, unless Dallas Fuel just come out and they do Dallas shit again, where they just, like, work out a counter to what everyone else is doing, I think they might be the worst Winston Sombra team in this list. Because weird comps didn't work, and that's my point. If the weird comps don't work, then they're just going to have to play Winston Sombra, and I don't think they beat these other teams. So I'm going to put Dallas as 6th. And I don't think it's unreasonable. I understand there's probably Dallas fans foaming at the mouth right now, but I don't think this is an unreasonable take. I think Fate with the Winston of Shanghai Dragons, Hisu and Viper playing the Tracer Sombra, I actually think that's a good lineup. So I'm actually going to do that. Do I think Shanghai's better than Seoul? Dude, that seems a little... Now I'm getting a little crazy. Why don't you pick Diva against Winston? Because you're not playing a head-to-head matchup. You're trying to enable your Sombra. If you play a Diva, you're playing too defensive. You saw that issue from a lot of teams on attack, where they tried to play Diva on, like, Blizzard World, right? Everyone tried to play Diva on Blizzard World. But if you're attacking, you can't enable your Sombra or Tracer to do anything because you're playing a Diva. You're playing too defensive. You can't dive with a Diva in the same way that you can dive with a Winston, because if you dive with a Diva, you can't get out. Prophet, Easyhan, Bellas Rhea, Lee Sumin, Krillin. Wobble wobble, motherfucker. How much do you like the Gangnam Gym main support? That's really the thing that draws me back. Bellas Rhea been struggling? Yeah, but do we think, like, are we overrating the value of Fate at this point? I think I'm going to put Shanghai up there. I think we're going to believe in them. I think this is a good meta for Shanghai. I think if the meta shifts away from them, they're fucked. Like, don't get me wrong. I think they're in a perfect meta for themselves right now. But they'll be right. All right, that's going to be my power rankings of the West and the East right now going into it. We have no fucking clue. This is just pure speculation, so keep that in mind when you're looking at these things. Let's do my pick'ems. Pick 2 teams from each region to advance to the summer stage. Atlanta Reign and the Houston Outlaws. Pretty easy. I think Seoul Infernal and the Hongzhou Spark are just a pretty safe bet in the Eastern region as well. I think these 2 teams are just going to be... I think they just have the best rosters for the most part. Unless, like, Dallas obviously could always make a run if the meta shifts in their favor or they find some secret source. I don't see Seoul or Shanghai getting better than either of these teams as well. All right. So, let's do the West. Florida Mayhem versus the Houston Outlaws. Houston Outlaws is going to win 3-1. I think Florida's playing well, but they're not near Houston Outlaws. Atlanta Reign is going to 3-0 the London Spitfire. The Gladiators versus the Shock. I'm going to go for the Glads 3-1. I'll give the Shock a map. I think Glads are going to get either even or improve a little bit with Marvel on tank. It'll come in to see, like, how the synergy and if they play a little bit differently with the Glads. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully the Yaki Sombra gets a little bit more consistency. New York Excelsior is going to beat the Vegas Eternal. I think they're going to 3-0 the Vegas Eternal. I think this is going to be a slow start for the Vegas Eternal. Gladiators are going to 3-0 the LA Valiant. San Francisco Shock, Washington Justice. Ooh. Washington Justice 3-1. You predicted Shock on Plat Chat? Yeah, that was before I realized that they signed Luke Mino on Pro. I am not sold that these players are going to be better for this team. I think there is a world in which Luke Mino and the backline of the San Francisco Shock get farmed by Alpha Yi Flora. Like, all of a sudden, you have an incredibly struggling Ana player who has been struggling to coordinate with their main support, who is now playing with a flex support on the worst team, who is now playing main support. And also, we don't know, the fact that we're only just finding this out and it wasn't like hard proper leaked recently means that there's probably not a lot of time for these players to work it out. So now they can't effectively communicate that well. I think Washington Justice might eat them up. All right, Toronto Defiant, Vancouver Titans. Ah, shit. Why did we talk about these matches on Plat Chat? Holy fuck. Vancouver Titans, Toronto Defiant. Spectra clears. Does the Hydron Sombra clear though? Like, I'm not worried about Spectra. I'm looking forward to seeing Spectra play, and I believe in Spectra to be good, right? But I think Sugar Free or he's saying they'll at least be somewhat competitive with Spectra. They've been around for a while. I really don't know with this one. I'm kind of... Wait, who picked up Spectra? Toronto Defiant. I'm going... Toronto. 3-2. My heart says Toronto. Atlanta Reign 3-0s the Washington Justice. Actually, I'm going to give Washington a map. No, I'm not. I take that back. I thought about it for a second. Houston Outlaws versus Boston Uprising. This will be the time for Boston to show if this team has kicked it up a gear. I talked about this on Plat Chat, but my big concern for the Boston Uprising is that they're not going to be able to clear that distance, right? It's Atlanta and Houston are in a completely different field of their own, and Atlanta's obviously got the edge on that one. But I don't see a world where either Florida Mayhem or the Boston Uprising can get to a point where they can beat both of these teams in this meta. As long as we're in a Winston Tracer Sombra meta, I think Atlanta and Houston are untouchable from everyone else below them. Boston and Florida are going to be fighting for third, and they'll definitely be competitive and nipping at the heels. I just don't see a world in which they can catch up. Maybe they can prove me wrong. Maybe they've made some great adjustments. London Spitfire versus New York Excelsior. I'm going for New York Excelsior. I'll give London a map. Florida Mayhem versus Vancouver Titans. Florida Mayhem will win 3-1. I'll give Vancouver a map. Boston Uprising is going to 3-0 the Vegas Eternal. Toronto Defiant is going to 3-0 the LA Valiant. Okay, think that makes sense. It's the West done. You don't think Vegas won a map versus New York? No, I don't think Vegas is going to improve that much. We'll find out. Guangzhou Charge versus O2 Blast. So we got a bunch of these. This is something that we need to talk about. So a bunch of the teams that did really well in the qualifiers are now coming in to play against the Overwatch League teams. They've qualified. So to sort of bolster out the Eastern region, especially with the full-time loss of the Chengdu Hunters, they've added a bunch of these teams. The unfortunate part of this decision is obviously that would be great, but the O2 Blast and contenders, teams Dreamers and Panthera, a lot of these teams have had their rosters stripped away. All of the best pieces have been stripped away, and they've been picked up by the Overwatch League teams. So the teams that potentially could have been competitive with the Overwatch League teams are now a shell of what they once were. So as much as we hyped up O2 Blast and Dreamers making through the qualifiers, Guangzhou Charge lost to the Dreamers to actually like move further in the tournament, which was really exciting. But I don't think that Dreamers team is as strong as they once were. Like, let me pull it up for you guys, just so you guys have some context. So they lost Donghan, EasyHan, and Spectra. These were 3 players that were like instrumental in like their qualification in the end, right? Like, obviously they still have some good pieces, Top Dragon, Dreamer, you know, all these kind of pieces, but I don't think it's going to be as good. So I think Guangzhou Charge is going to beat O2 Blast. I'll give O2 Blast a map. Seoul Infernal versus Hangzhou Spark. 3-2. Seoul Infernal. This is going to be close. This is going to be a good match. Seoul Dynasty versus Shanghai Dragons. Okay, Shanghai. Okay, Shanghai. This is me believing in you. Don't fuck it up. Okay? New tank, new you. No flatter, much better. Okay? Keep that in mind. Fate's not a bait. Let's go. Guangzhou Charge versus the Hangzhou Spark. Going to go for Hangzhou 3-1. Dallas Fuel, Poker Face Gaming. I actually think this could be close. I'm going to go with Dallas Fuel because I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they know what the fuck is up. Because we haven't heard a peep from them since the Midseason Madness, right? We haven't heard a peep. So we don't know if they're improved, they've gotten worse, what's been going on with the meta. For all we know, in the East, they're not even playing Winston, Tracer, Sombra. I would be shocked by that news, but we don't know what the answer of that is, right? And we have been seeing the qualifiers for the so far, and I believe it's primarily been Winston, Tracer, Sombra, right? From the qualifiers that we've seen. I actually don't have like full proof of that from the bits and pieces I've watched for the qualifiers so far. Anyone confirm for me in chat? A lot of Winston, Tracer, Sombra? Yeah, okay, that's what I imagined. Seoul Dynasty, gonna 3-0. I'll give them a map. Shanghai Dragons, I think, are gonna 3-1. I'm gonna give, no, let's not be a 3-0, 3-1 Andy. Let's go 3-0. Dallas Fuel, O2 Blast. I'm gonna go 3-1 for Dallas Fuel again. Seoul Infernal is gonna beat Poker Face Gaming. And then Panthera versus Dreamers. I would have gone for Dreamers, but I don't know how good this team is as much. I haven't... Yeah, I think Dreamers probably still win. I'm going to go 3-1. There's a lot of 3-1s in there, but I think it's fair. How does the new teams in the East work with the league/tournament points? I actually don't know. I assume that they're probably just going to go into the qualifiers like everybody else. And then they'll get put into the knockouts based on their seeding of the qualifiers. Do you think it'd be a significant improvement if Vindime went back to Dynasty? I think it would definitely help in the main support area. Like, I think Vindime isn't a bad main support. Like, and I think if he goes back to Seoul and feels more comfortable, he could definitely solve that problem, right? You know, like... I also think this is an important thing to keep in mind when we talk about these players, right? We're like, what happened to Vindime? He fell off a cliff. This is some like 18, 19-year-old kid who's lived in Korea his entire life, who had to move across the world and live in America. Like, that can be hard. That is a stressful thing to do, and that can directly affect your life and how you perform at your job, which is, you know, in the Overwatch League, a very difficult thing to do. If he did go back to Seoul Dynasty, he's playing with coaches and players that he knows and feels more comfortable. He should be back in his element. For all we know, we could see that level of improvement because he was a great player last year. maybe you can make the argument his brig was never that good and Lucio's really his specialty. I accept that and I understand that, but I could definitely see that that being an effect. Where it's just better Lucio on other teams. Well, you know, Dante actually, this is a good tangent. Dante actually came on Plat Chat today and he said something that sort of stood out to me, which was the San Francisco Shock are known to be pretty rigorous and pretty strict in the way that they do things. And that doesn't always benefit certain players. Some players don't like that pressure. For all we know, Vindam was struggling with the amount of pressure that was just coming from the San Francisco Shock player base, the expectations, all that type of stuff. So you never know. Maybe Shock just wasn't a good fit for him. And we'll see something better. But who really knows? That's it. We did it, chat. The CNN Midseason Madness recap is done. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you guys are up to speed because matches start. Well, this video is coming out tomorrow, so today. So make sure to tune into those. Thank you very much for watching. Leave me a comment below of what you guys think of my takes. Which team do you think won this midseason? Which teams got the most improvement? Which teams had the least level of improvement? What kind of things do you disagree by? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like the video, and I will be getting back to some consistent videos soon. We should have CNN again next week, and we got VOD reviews coming back to the channel, so keep an eye out for those. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you all, and I will see you guys next time.